Sweet, looks like my camera is finally getting to be a little better here. Give me 1 second here, let me pause the music here. There we go. Good evening, everybody. My name is GriffinOni, and welcome to the final, absolutely definitive final live stream of Metaphor ReFantasio. In the last stream, I streamed for 8 hours, and I got through the final dungeon, the final boss. We got to see the beautiful kind of ending of us, finally becoming the king of the kingdom, and we even got to see like a year pass. And it looks like me and my party members have all gotten in much more official positions, kind of members of the royal entourage, and there's just kind of a little. Kind of just last little chunk of time that the game wanted me to spend kind of interacting with all my confidants and kind of just wrapping up the story at the very end. But at that point, I had been streaming for 8 hours. It was well past midnight, and I had to go to work the next morning. So I decided I had to make a compromise somewhere. And I decided, okay, I'm going to try to find some time this week, just one of the days, just to kind of push through the last little bit of the story, give my final thoughts on Metaphor ReFantasio, and then, if we have time, we might do something else, because I don't want to be too boring. So we're just going to get right back to work here. Let me get the PlayStation going, and we will see what's going on. Trixie, I do see you in the chat. Yeah, like I said, I'm not sure if anyone else is going to come to this. Like I said, I don't regularly stream on weekdays. Let me just do my little bits of work here. So give me a projector, give me a source projector, boom. And now I'm just gonna put my little window here, and we'll get back to work. So like I said, we're at the very end of things. The only thing that was like explicitly clear is that we need to talk to Maria, and I imagine it's gonna be more just Maria. I imagine we're gonna talk to all of my confidants. So let's do a little let's do a little walking, let's do a little talking, and let's see what all's going on. Holgenberg,
come now.
You finish business outside the palace. Promise me you'll return home and introduce, Your Majesty. If you take this as my pressuring you not to venture out, that's not it at all. Only that as captain of the royal guard, I must know your whereabouts at all times. Relax, Hulkenberg. You be so serious, Hulkenberg. Lighten up, maybe? You mean to say I'm too fussy? Well, 'tis only proper for the captain of the royal guard to be over familiar would set a poor example. Imagine the scandalized faces of the rank and file guard.
Of course.
That said, not a day goes by when I don't reflect on our travels. Now only a year passed. I owe regaining my pride as a knight to that journey. I was but a wanderer, searching in vain for the prince, and it was through you I learned he yet lived. And in the end, it was your ascent to the throne I supported.
And so?
I never tire the faces the younger guards make when I tell them of the time you acted as witness to my duel. Ah, Rodanthe. Yes, thanks to you, I was able to face him with eyes forward and put my past behind me. I'm pleased to say the knights of today are nothing like what they were under Rodanthe's command. Soldiers seek up their sword not for those in power, but for the people. And as the champion of the people yourself, we will do all in our power to protect you, our king.
Well,
you do not make it easy by sneaking out of the palace, as you do, though I suspect the soldiers are getting used to your chaotic tendencies. They know they protect not just a king, but a ruler who stands beside his people and hears their voices in clarion truth.
this
I will protect you with my life, as I have always endeavored to do, Your Majesty. Only let me stay by your side to do so.
What do you want to do?
So other people can talk to, but did you want to go see Maria now? No, we can still talk to other people, and I absolutely want to do that. So just kind of go through and see what else going on here. Multiple confidants to talk to. Ah, my boy Alonso. How goes?
Pleasure to see you.
Why, hello, Your Majesty. It's been a year since your coronation, but I see you've become quite apt at sneaking away from your palatial duties. Under constant fire from knaves of all trades, con artists and critics alike, your opening act has been rather tumultuous, no? I hadn't noticed. Haha! How kingly an answer. Never missing an opportunity to display how capable you are. Commendable. Besides, most of the agitators are the kind of scum that stirs the pot in hopes they might benefit from the country's turmoil. Nothing I couldn't handle, of course. All in a day's work for the royal adjutant to the Citizens' Council. Quite an ally I've made, I should hope.
Hey.
I wonder if my mother would be the slightest bit proud to see who I've become. That I'm doing my damnedest to use my talents for good, as I always should have. I'm sure she would. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yes.
I hope so. I was such a problem child. I'd like to make this a country where honest folk, where my mother can be happy.
Now that you mention it.
That reminds me. Do you remember Dutchram, my hometown's landowner? He told me to send you his regards. He's since confessed his crimes and is awaiting trial. You were the one who awakened his conscience. It makes sense, doesn't it? You've proven your ideals to be true, and that's why the country is doing so well. There's nothing more to it.
Thank you.
I'm hardly qualified to speak of pride, but if this country has one, it's you, and I'm proud to be among its people. Perhaps under your rule, the day will come that even we Nydia can walk about freely in true forms. Or in our true forms. Ha! You're curious what I look like in my true form. Oh, that's right, they're like the really tiny chibi. I'd be happy to oblige, but let's say that for another time, shall we? No, I want to see Chibi Alonso! I want to see Chibi Alonso, come on. My boys. My boys, who would I talk to first? Let's talk to Basilio.
Yo.
Hey, I was expecting going. Seemed a right pain to me, but I appreciate you going to all the effort. All's well, I take it? How fares the city?
Hey.
Wish I had something to report, but I don't. Heh. Guess that's what happens when you make a guy like me captain of the Terrarian Brigade. Bit of a mouthful, innit? Still not used to calling myself a captain besides. We even taken some survivors from Luis's troops, you know. But don't you worry. I've got two eyes on them even when I ain't looking.
But
The way I see it, they weren't the ones trying to make the world worse. I just gotta show them how power's supposed to be used, yeah? We owe it to you that there's less discrimination in the city these days. Fewer and fewer are turned to a life of crime to make ends meet. If Del could see Grant tried today, his eyes would bug out. Not just Del, a lot of guys who didn't make it. I wish they could have seen.
yeah.
Yeah, same. But as long as we keep it in our memory, it's as close to saving them as we can get. Vinca included. We built this place with a lot of blood and tears, so I say those of us who have made this far owe it to all of them what didn't to protect it. Maybe I got nothing to report today, but it's not bad. People just stop being bad because you're keen now.
Thank you.
You've been through a lot though, so thanks for not giving up on us. Or the world for that matter. You spot any trouble I didn't spot first, you just point me at it. I'll solve it quickly, like. Heismay, I love the fact that Heismay has like such an official outfit on. Like he is properly part of the royal guard again, and I'm all for it.
Oh.
Well, I see our king is out on the personal business, eh? I believe Hulkenberg was searching for you, but I suppose it's none of my business who comes or goes. I'm on break myself.
Just
Only try not to frustrate your royal guards over much, They all take their duties quite seriously, much like their captain. Bah, who am I kidding? A knight who smiles is surely a myth. That's become clear to me since becoming titled. What could be more bizarre? A you chief outcast, once a wanted criminal with a bounty on his head, made knight commander. There was, of course, some opposition at first, but the more heart-to-heart talks I've had, the more accepting they've become, albeit gradually. An outcast became king, too. They didn't need look further than outcasts who became their king.
true.
Indeed, you face no shortage of persecution, and look at you now. Grand titles and posts across the nation are no different, spread across all tribes. I've realized over the past year just how a nation is defined by its people. No matter how great a king, he alone does not a country make.
However,
Yet he stands for the very people, as symbol and representative. That the king and those around him are of mixed tribes has already caused a great shift in sentiment, even for those in the rural villages. How is Tadari?
Now that you mention it.
yes,
He seems as busy as he can handle, now that they've resumed trade with the other villages. Your coronation inspired that village to greater heights. It proved that barriers can be broken, and that even they could take the first step. New winds are blowing in every corner of this country. I'll have to make another trip back home with my son to see the change for myself soon enough. And someday, I hope distant generations will grow up only knowing convent-born and tribal differences from history books.
we shall.
We're a ways to go before that day comes, but until it does, let us forge the path toward it, Your Majesty. Beautiful. Now, is there any other confidant in this area? No. Okay. So, yeah, that's what I thought. We can just head straight there. Obviously, we can't talk to Moore because Moore has ceased. But we can kind of work our way up. So let's just kind of work our way from the bottom up and let's talk to combat. So, Brigitte? Let's talk to Brigitte. What you got, my queen? Even though I'm king. The king himself out browsing the shops. Ha! Perhaps I needed to draft up a royal certificate of appointment. Tell the world we supply goods to the royal family. Any recommendations? One igniter in particular, in fact, though I'm afraid we're all sold out of it at the moment. The igniter I made at the children's request, the one that lights up with rainbow colors, is selling startlingly well. The store was packed with families and children.
Say,
I now hold the position where I control the distribution of all manner of goods throughout the kingdom as head of the Igniter Consortium. I can't help but think that if I had been in this position sooner than the church's violence, the tragedy of that village could have been prevented. Let's focus on the present.
Brigitte.
What matters is how we move forward, though, right?
yes.
Indeed, I can dwell on the past all I wish, but it won't change it. The future, on the other hand. I took up this post after I was nominated by my colleagues. In other words, I suppose that means people have expectations of me, and that I too am a spoke in the wheel of change. Blech, I can't read. Our new king has changed this country for the better. However, as a former arms dealer, it would be naive to think all weapons can ever disappear from this world.
Yet.
It's all the more reason I hope that the reasons for people to wield them continue to decline. To that end, I'll continue doing all that I possibly can with all that I am, just as you do.
Speaking of,
Yes, do you remember my dog? I found the ones who took her. Naturally, I consider ending their lives. But there she was, sitting beside them. Evidently, they could not bring themselves to harm such a sweet creature, so they decided to keep her instead. I had no choice but to spare their lives. I couldn't subject a gentle dog to the atrocities I commit in her name. You should come play with her sometime. I'm sure she remembers you. I will always look forward to any opportunity to interact with dog. Next up, Barden. Is he in the city? I assume he is.
Lovely that.
Yes, he is. He's in front of the recruitment center. Interesting.
That's something.
What an unexpected coincidence, Your Majesty. No guards with you today. Don't worry, I'm no tattletale. I myself just left a meeting going over how provincial governments are doing. We're convened for the new year. You must be busy these days.
Really?
Well,
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, but the job is its own reward, knowing what good it does for a town. And I'm pleased to report, as head of the provincial lords, it's nothing but good news reaching my ears. Better relations between towns as employment up and overall welfare too. Each town has specialties and wisdom to offer, and when we combine our heads, there's no problem we can't solve. I just feel so blessed to be part of it. I know I made some blunders when I first stepped into the governor's role, but I'm happy to share my feelings so others don't repeat my mistakes. It's alright now?
but of course.
Indeed they are. The townspeople play an active role in the policy and administration. I'm not bearing that weight alone. Of course, some lords and I was once, and I would rather manage things at their sole discretion than leave things to the people. And yes, taking every matter to public opinion can be laborious, what with all the proceedings and disputes.
Then again,
Still, changing our town lives with our own hands makes the process worth the trouble.
brilliant.
And choosing a king of our own will was all the inspiration we needed for change.
Lovely that.
Beautiful, Barden. Good to see that things are going well. What are you to say, it's candidate Milo? Ah, your majesty, it's already been a year since you've ascended to your throne. And 1 year since I lost my bid for it. Thinking back, I have no regrets. I've not been able to defeat Louis in the end as you did. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Ha! It would have been impossible for me, and any of the other candidates if we're honest. I've come to believe in your power, your majesty. Though I'll not acquiesce on all fronts, you know. You needn't look further than your 6 partisans, your mere little band. I can appreciate your faith in your inner circle, but to award them all your key posts? Why, one might suspect you of collusion. A country requires views from all walks of life, or put another way, why not appoint me your prime minister? With my guidance, Uchronia would be a land of true beauty. Just when you think he's about to make a decent point, he plays his own angle. Don't let your guard down on that guy. Hey, at least he's consistent. Okay. Next, Katharina.
You right, mate?
Let's see what she's up to and where she's up to it. Oh, she was right over there. Okay.
Hi there.
Oh, well, if it ain't the big man himself. Good timing, mate. I just got back into town myself. Where'd you go? I forget. Where'd you go again?
What
I'm
is
captain
that?
of the Seekers recon team, remember? We travel the world doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And crazy doesn't begin to describe what's beyond the sea. The sights, the magic, everything's so fantastic. I'm already itching to get back out there. I'm sorry to go back and forth on the accent, but I'm bad at these. Katharine is always difficult to remember how she goes about it. Well, I'm not especially keen on dodging the bloody cannonballs when my ship gets so too close. Lots of tension out there, but what country is a little tense? Everything from custom to the way they think is so different. My head spins. Makes all the tribal bickering seem right dull if I can speak my mind. But this country's changing for the better, and I'm glad I turned over the throne to you. Appreciate it.
Hold on.
Oh, come on, I'm just roasting ya. As we knotheads, I knew I could trust you in making their lives of purpose better than they was. All my cohort have found jobs, and some of them have even picked up new skills from being out at sea so long.
See you soon, I hope.
But don't you worry, your kingly head. I'll have it all whipped up in a report for you. Do something proper kingish with it, yeah? Lovely. I'm glad to see that everything is going well. Okay, Stroll is right there, so I might as well talk to my boy. How's it going?
Hey.
Ah, skulking about the city again, are we? Which is to say, Hulkenberg is on the hunt. The classic game of cat and mouse. Though who is which, I dare not say. It's been a year since you ascended the throne, but it's like you've hardly changed. Should I be more pretentious?
I mean,
Forgive me, I'll try to add to like a more pretentious git from now on.
No.
Ha! That's rich. All that roleplay on you is positively wasted, my friend. What are we to do with you? Not that I can talk. I actually came out for a bit of a breather myself.
Even so.
You know, I see now that even those at the top have had their struggles. A little too clearly. The general's duties feel overwhelming at times. But there are lives hanging in the balance. I recognize the weight of every decision I make, and I do find satisfaction in protecting those lives.
Hey.
Remember our first meeting back at the recruitment center? I, a fallen noble with nothing to my name, and you a struggling elder traveler? Back then, my only goal was getting ahead. My people were little more than an afterthought. If I hadn't met you, I'd have never realized the truth about my fortune, my father's intentions, and I certainly couldn't have saved the Hallians.
Thank you.
I owe seeing the joy in their faces to you. I think I've said it before, but again, thank you. Give yourself some credit, my guy.
that's...
You need to give yourself some credit, Stroll.
No.
I still owe any credit I take to you for showing me the way. They lived stable, peaceful lives thanks to you.
Hey.
You've a whole country on your shoulders now. The road ahead will be full of challenges we can't possibly foresee. But show me the way and I'll blaze the trail. Now and always, it's my role as a warrior to be the vanguard.
That's why.
Our titles may have changed, but I'd like to think our friendship is steadfast as ever. Don't hesitate to rely on me now and always.
Say there.
Beautiful. I'm glad to hear it, Stroll.
My, oh my.
Okay. Maria, we're obviously saving for last. Not that we can teleport straight to her, but we know where we need to go. Okay, we only have 3 left. I'm going to do Juna, Yufa, then Nuris. Because, again, Nuris is my favorite character, and I want to save him for the end. So, Juna.
My king.
Let's see what she's up to. So, Griffin, how did you like the game? I loved it. Ultimately, I did enjoy the game. There were some points of definite frustration, especially with certain bosses, and getting Magla to restore my MP is just a pain. But at the end of the day, I love this game. This was a phenomenal game. The twists were good. The writing is just stellar. Just absolute, just god tier game.
My king.
Oh, there you are, Zelf. Heard you were in town, so I decided to see if we might cross paths. I have so much to tell you about my inspection, so I'm afraid you'll have to clear your diary for me soon. Inspection?
Hold on.
Really? Do I need to go back to bed? You were the one who sent me to the Mage Academy, were you not?
Well,
The Mage Academy's reconstruction is going swimmingly. Repairs are in full swing, and we're already processing admissions. I must say, I'm so surprised you appointed me, of all people, to be the Academy's head mistress. I was rather looking forward to going back on tour as a songstress. Oh, and I shall introduce you to my shall I introduce you to my fur little friend? I scooped him up in the academy of all places. Oh! She's the cat! I just noticed, yeah. That's interesting. During the reconstruction, they stumbled on the little guy in some kind of observatory supposedly used by a king long ago. Considering the igniter around his neck, I'm sure he was being taken care of. I mean, there's no way a cat could survive alone in that cold, could he?
So,
Regardless, our mysterious kitty is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the academy. All that knowledge was lost when it fell, so we're starting from scratch. It may even be hiding secrets as big as the Dragon Temple or the Sanctum. Oh, and I'm keeping the cat. Feels like fate, you know? There certainly needed to be some better magic for me, like there is for money. Yeah, money was no object at a certain point, but the only time in the game where you could really buy, like, you know, magic, or I guess you're talking about the Magla for certain things. Again, Final Dungeon was easy to grind that, but shouldn't have to wait till Final Dungeon. Speaking of fate, on my way back, I met up with Myrtus. Who's that again?
Hold on.
Ice cold, Your Majesty. Remember the singer who kept trying? Oh, yeah. He kept trying to take me down a peg a while back? She's fairly well known about the town now. We both just keep soaring to new heights. Her in music, and me coming face to face with magic again.
hey.
Surely you remember music was the first magic born in this world, yes? When the heart expresses itself through music, it moves the hearts of others. And when they make hearts swell, why, there's no end to the magic. So, just you watch. With music and magic at my side, I'm going to change the world. All will have equal opportunity to hone their talents at the Mage Academy. Our doors are open to all. That's why my sister would have wanted, and if it makes the world a better place, why isn't that just grand?
Magic.
Rella taught me that magic is more than a tool. It's in all of us, deep in our hearts. Beautiful. I'm glad to see Juna has really kind of taken a step up. I will say, objectively, like, I love Juna as a character. I love her design. I love the way she was written. Not the most stellar party member, at least as far as her default archetype is concerned. Not saying she can't be a good mage, because she does have the best magic potential of the game, but as far as her mass dancer archetype is concerned, not great. But, again, we're here to focus on the end here. Yufa is up next. Closest thing we had to a proper crush/romantic relationship in the game. But we'll see.
Greetings.
Working as hard as ever, Elf. Were you going about town and listening to what the people have to say? Myself, I've just come from the Crown Court, where I've been consulted with the people about their grievances and disputes as a chief magistrate. Our court is the time for that?
Well,
Yes, of course.
In the past, we were busy with cases of violence and theft, but those have decreased remarkably.
In truth.
As you've undoubtedly aware, in the past, many citizens were sentenced to hang without so much as a trial.
Alas.
I'm pleased to report things are different now. Anyone, regardless of race or status, can tell their side of the story in court and be judged equally and fairly. It just goes to show, anything is possible, even for a priestess to become a chief magistrate. And my brother is making great strides as village chief. He rather hated the role before, but he's truly found his calling, I think.
The reason is.
As I said, no one knows what the future holds. It's all the more reason I try to guide people to good choices. I want to live in a society that practices kindness, where those who suffer need not turn to crime. And so I practice what I preach. Wait, did you never use masks with mass answer? No, I did use masks.
Now that you mention
I did use masks, and that's honestly, right, that's kind of the problem, is the fact that you have to use masks to change out the abilities of the masked dancer, because accessories in this game are so helpful. Like, some of these accessories are just, like, so quintessential, and the fact that you have to use masks with the masked dancer means that you're restricted to not using the other accessories. In a lot of cases, like, especially with, like, the Royal Masked Dancer, a lot of the skills you get with the masks for the Royal Masked Dancer are just skills that expose weaknesses, which in of itself is okay, but I would have liked to see a little more variety with those, like getting some just a ton of really good offensive stuff as well as exposed weaknesses. But yes, I am aware of how the Masked Dancer works. It's not so much just, oh, it only exposes weaknesses. I know there's more to it than that, but again, it's just the way that it functions. I wish masks didn't act as an accessory. They let you in? People at church were okay with you being there?
very well.
Yes, I had productive conversations with Ovi and the rest. Many who were sick have gotten better and want to ease into working again. Hearing them made me reflect on all the people who still need our help. Until now, the only hope that those people had was God.
I do believe.
I want to fight for them to have options under laws and systems that they can rely on in addition to higher power. A country where all the tribes with all their values can join hands in harmony. That's what we need.
Because
You aim to achieve that too, yes, Your Majesty? I hope you'll allow me to keep walking alongside you in this. Alright, well that is beautiful, Yufa. Glad things are working out. Now there's only one more character that we need to see before we go see Maria. That is my boy, Nuris. Still my favorite character in the game. That will not change. He is so good. Like, I'm sorry. If you don't like Nuris, you're wrong. Like, he is the best character in this game. Ho ho ho! What brings his royal majesty here? Come to feel the wind on your face too, have you? I know how it is. I've the fancy old title of Chief Engineer of the Kingdom's Infrastructure Department Bureau, and can research as I please now. But something's missing. I mostly use mass to gain resistances more than skills, and letting you hit the final boss weakness is pretty useful. That's true. Hitting final boss for weaknesses, I imagine, what is probably helpful. But so is Vorpal Blade. God, Vorpal Blade was so helpful. So I threw off that stuffy old uniform and came to gaze upon the runner in the way that I do. I know how you feel.
About that.
I knew you'd agree. I think my bones are aching to feel the wind. I'd rather miss the days of dashing hither and thither in the runner. Not that I'm ungrateful for your gracious title you've given to a man who used to skulk about, modifying gauntlet runners. You haven't seen anything yet. Why, one day I'll invent a teleportation device will deliver fresh fish straight from Oceania to your palatial plates. It would change the world, wouldn't you say? I'm just a bit, stuck. At the beginning. On the development.
Indeed.
And it's times like this I need stimulation of the mind. You have anything that might do the trick? Or I smell another relic hunt?
That's...
You gotta send me out another relic hunt? Don't pretend you didn't enjoy it. Every time you pop back in with one, I remember how I could hardly contain my excitement. I do so miss traveling like that. Even if the relics themselves were better off left untouched, they become the guiding principles of my research, you know?
That's...
Convenience is important, but one must consider safety and the effects it might have on the world. An engineer who dumps a burden on future generations is no engineer at all. Anyway, still, it's no small feat to design with a perfect balance of safe and revolutionary. Even I struggle with it, and I'm a bolly genius. Ah, I knew it. What I need is stimulation, Your Majesty. You know, like the soul-shaking speed and quiver of a drive engine. You'll let me know if you ever want to go out for a spin, won't you? Our dear old girl's sparkling clean, always ready for takeoff. Ah, there she is. A beautiful goblet runner. Taking us all over, flying in the sky. Such a beautiful, magnificent machine. Okay, all that's left to do is go to Maria. So let's go back. Okay.
Lovely, that. Say there.
so,
I think we've heard from all the people. Should we head to where Maria is? Let's go see her.
that reminds me.
Being here sure brings back memories. You remember how we came here looking for Maria before the tournament for the throne? She was crying back then, though. Yeah, she was.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember. This country's turned around since then, no doubt about it. I'm sure there will always be differences of opinion, but your ideals are really coming to fruition now. I can feel it. That reminds me, what's up with the book you're carrying around now? Is that the one you've been working on yourself? I'm excited to see what kind of fantasy you can conjure up. But maybe that's not even the word for it. After all, if you're the one putting it in ink, that means you're going to make it a reality someday. Now then, Your Majesty, shall we get going? I did not move myself then. There's our girl.
Oh, hello there. Oh, right. I suppose now I should call you Your Majesty. You know, I was just telling Papa. Even through all that mess, everyone's really been working hard.
Am I keeping my promise?
Am I keeping my promise properly from back then?
Yes, you beat the villain, and now the city's full of smiles. And I'm sure Papa's smiling down on me too.
That's good. Hearing that from you really lifts my heart.
It's a joy to see kids like her smile. The future changes slowly, and the burden of its momentum will fall on their shoulders one day.
Don't worry, I'll try to do my part with what I've got. I want to help everyone understand that the world could be a better place if we can join hands with one another. Miss Fabian's fed so many hungry people since things changed. Some of those people even said they found their place there. I think I did too. If we can all change together for the better like that, we'll be closer to your Majesty's and Papa's dream.
A place where I ought to be. A side of myself I ought to show. The path is never clear.
And I want to help with something too. I want everyone across the land to be able to smile.
I'm counting on you.
Yeah, I'm counting on you. Let's do this together.
Yeah. Thank you, Your Majesty. Oh, thank you, Your Majesty.
We should be the ones thanking her. Feels like I can see the entire country's future in her smile.
Oh, they're my boys.
Everyone.
Long time no see. How have you been?
As we find ourselves afield, I thought I might visit Alsace myself.
Hold on a tick. Those people there. Surely not.
Naturally, we're drawing attention. We didn't all have to go at once.
Dude, Heismay's eyes in the model, like he's so dead-eyed. It's like that is a man who's like, this was a horrible idea.
Needn't fuss, old thing. It's been too long since we were all together again anyway.
I beat the game on hard with a Magic MC build. It's certainly flawed, but decently fun. Oh, I'm sure.
Would have asked His Majesty to pop over and bring you back with a teleport or two.
The unmitigated nerve.
Oh, it's fine. I wanted to take in our country as it is. It's definitely a little rougher outside the capital's walls. There's still traces of melancholia around, and the odd human roaming about.
We're sending soldiers out for every incident we can. But it's not easy to hear the voice of the people from more distant regions.
I guess it's obvious. But just because you're king now doesn't make you suddenly all-seeing.
Well, then we have like a king's magic of some kind.
A lesson I learned last year. In the end, I was blind to a great deal of this world. Never would have learned if I hadn't pushed out the door and seen it with my own eyes.
Good life lesson, Eurus. He's right. The capital can be a bit of a bubble. There will always be more to do and learn beyond its walls.
A year ago, I would have just said we could fly over ourselves. I mean, let's be real. The capital isn't going to fall apart if we just sneak over for a little tour, is it?
Of course not. We specifically put precautions in place to keep things running.
Yet it has only been 1 year. We cannot be too complacent too soon, lest the dissidents seize on the opportunity.
Oh, there he is! Over there! See? I told you, that's His Majesty, innit?
Might have been a bit too obvious.
Oi there, Your Majesty!
You dare hoy the king, you swine?
Steady on, Hulkenberg, calm. You needn't draw steel on the poor fellow. We're the ones who indulged in this little day trip.
Your Majesty, thanks for all you do, really. Have to say, my life's a lot easier now.
There's more work to do every day. But we're in this together. We believe in you.
First few human bosses were so interesting. I'm sad there weren't more fight like Chapter 1's human fight. Yeah, that's true. Chapter 1's human fight was a lot more interesting. At a certain point, it was just about exposing like the weaknesses, just based on like their affinities, which it's a fair point, but I still feel like they had enough going for each one of them. Like, you know, the baby one, at least have, lurking in the sewers and, fooling an old woman into thinking it was some sort of resurrected version of her child, and the one that like possessed the dragon god. Like, they had enough going for them, but yeah, in terms of gameplay, I agree.
Everyone's so supportive. Kind of brings back memories from last year.
Rather. It's the sort of thing to get a chap all misty-eyed over the past. What a journey it was.
Looks like we're drawing a crowd. Time to get back to work.
Indeed. A veritable mountain of tasks awaits us, and I will see it crested.
And not long after, the new year dawned.
How many days are in December? Because we already know that there were at least 35. Why are we in the Gauntlet Runner? Final Dungeon's human gauntlet reminded me of what had been missed for the last half of the game.
Really
Humans were just treated as mini bosses after chapter 2. Oh, I think at a certain point we kind of established, hey, like, humans are not really the enemy here. It's like we need to focus on the source and not the the actual just consequences of it. Are you really planning on leaving us? There's more I have to see.
There's more I have to see. With my own eyes.
You want to know what's going on in the world, huh? Well, I guess you are the king.
Sounds like fun, but daily jaunt down to the slums is one thing, and a proper journey is quite another.
Listen, Nuris, I don't need an excuse. I'll go with you anywhere, for any reason. I'll go to another town with you just to pick up some milk. It's like, I don't need any excuse.
You're a king now, lad. You've got the people's expectations on your shoulders. It's all right to just sit on your throne and mind the home front, you know?
I just want to do what I can.
I want to do what I can for the people. If that's not kingly, then the crown's just slowing me down.
Come on, this is no time for jokes.
Ever the fearless gadabout, eh? Well, I take your point, lad. Nagler and the humans make a fine barometer for the anxiety still swirling in the country. So you go out and give it a proper survey, where it is and how much is there. If people can't face their anxieties, they can't keep their eyes forward. And if they can't do that, we'll have a bally hard time moving forward as a nation or a people. Do you want to get a better grasp of it all? That's your most important duty as a ruler. That's what you're thinking, eh?
Right.
Even the most faraway future begins with the belief that it can be realized. So I'll press forward. That's the best I can do.
If that was your plan, you could have just said so.
Sounds like a fine idea to me. A proper spot of fun, besides. Wouldn't expect any less from our king and captain. Well, since I'm the ballet court engineer, I've no choice but to come along. I'm the only driver fit to maneuver the Royal Skyrunner after all. Yes, here begins our quest anew. Let us sally forth upon our... hello? Are you not listening to me?
Sire, you've really got to
gang's
stop
all
chasing these
here.
ideas all on your own. It'll be the death of us.
Once again, sire, I've asked you countless times to give word if you're to leave the castle. Such caprice.
Nuris, don't tell me you called for them beforehand.
Of course he did. He's the best character in the game. Why would he not do explicitly that?
Saved us a bit of time, eh? Though, hello, what's this? I count only 2 of the 6 partisans. Short a few spears.
I mean, from a gameplay perspective, the different areas of a boss, different weaknesses, being able to destroy limbs, being able to match take. DPS was mostly boring and non-human fights. That's fair.
For my part, I believe 'tis unrealistic for all of us to depart the capital together.
Oh, so you have no plans to stop our little adventure, eh?
Hulkenberg and I talked it over. We decided that if you insist on going, we'd rather go with you than stop you.
Are you sure?
Are you sure about this?
I was thinking back to our last fight with Luis. So many people supported us, but not for any high-minded ideals or arguments.
They were supporting us because we were actively fighting a monster on their behalf. In the end, people make choices based on their personal experience and emotion. Even if decided justly and supported by prosperity, the people may struggle to trust a king whose face they do not know. An invisible ruler is no cure for their fears.
Right. I'm not opposed to the idea of getting out into the world again. Really, it might be the wisest move to make sure you're a king everyone knows.
My friends and allies believe as I do. The support is the greatest treasure I could have.
Still, this early into the new year? 'Tis never a dull moment in your Majesty's employ.
Bit of a smaller party than we last set out with, huh? But it's a pleasure to be on the road again with you.
Okay, but can we really afford to have both our general and the Royal Guard's captain coming along for this?
'Tis natural course for the Royal Guard to accompany the king. And I trust my corps is not so feeble that it will fall apart in my absence.
We'll make it work. Got to learn to trust others and delegate, right? We'll just have to lead by example.
Then let's go.
Right then, let's go.
You once heard my voice and answered a query in kind. Is fantasy a powerless creation? That timeless question. So long as life remains in the world, we seekers all shall search for our answer. But he will find his. Of that I am certain. And it is thanks to you for believing in and guiding him. That was the true purpose of my royal magic, you know. To seek and obtain guidance from denizens of a land beyond ours. A land that has not yet lost hope.
Okay, you know this game was made before this year, because we've lost hope. We have definitely lost hope. Relied a lot on advanced trickster, storage skill, minus 2 benefits, counter most boss strategies. Alright, counter always stealing a turn. Yeah, Hulkenberg's Omni Negate was very helpful. Before a certain point, where the bosses would always use Dakunda and Dekaja anyway, I always had Dakunda Dekaja myself ready just to deal with certain bosses, especially when we fought Rella and the Ice Dragon, because God, you cannot do that boss fight without both.
And it was you who answered the call. Armed with your hope, armed with the power of fantasy, you rose in glory. Such courage, such whimsy, and yes, what thrills. You have my sincerest thanks.
FMV. FMV.
Feels familiar. It's been far too long.
God, squad is here.
Days passed.
Unusually poetic for you.
Oh, my boy. My boy! Let's go!
They're awful, aren't they? They would have left us behind. Oh.
Well, I'm not certain we're in a position to talk, having followed straight after, saying we could just teleport back.
Well, hey, We figured the kids might want to change your scenery, like.
Let's go! Maria's traveling with us! Oh, yes, let's go.
Indeed, that the scepter's absence restored order to Magla and even greenery to the sands.
I'll say, I definitely like this view better.
Let's go.
Final Town, they had pretty cheap scrolls. Oh, it's so many to manage stats. Nice. Okay. All right. Yeah, I could have, cause like that took nearly an hour to get through. So I'm glad that I decided to not go all the way through in the last stream, because again, nearly 9 hours, that would have killed me. I would not have managed to make it through that. But yeah, that is the official end of Metaphor ReFantasio. Ryan and I have been talking about it back and forth. There are definitely some highs and lows with this game. I think certain things do kind of flatten out at certain points, but like the game's writing especially is just absolutely just stellar. I was never truly bored with what's going on. I never truly felt complacent at any point. And I will say, like, Louise is one of the best villains we've had for a while. I am a sucker for a villain that, like, it is established from the get-go that he is the bad guy, and he at no point makes it any less ambiguous that he is the bad guy. He is absolutely the bad guy. You just, I mean, you knew it before you even got to the title screen that he was the bad guy, and like he never changed, and that is kind of really a good thing. For Louise to not change, even though like the party views it as not a good thing. As far as being a villain is concerned, I loved it, and it also never lied. Like a ton of deception, but never like outright lied to anyone. At least not through intentional misinformation. Lies of deceit at worst. Not lies of deceit. Lies of omission at worst. Like Brian and I said, grinding Magla is a little tedious, and replenishing MP, as I kind of rambled on many times about throughout the playthrough, it was a pain. There was no really good way to get like MP restored on. It's like, yes, there was like the water that you could get in each and every town, but that was extremely finite, and that could only carry you so far. Getting more effective MP restoring items outside of like random chance through confidants, that wasn't all really reliable, and it wasn't really until you got to the final dungeon where not only you had a way to consistently and fully restore Magla, but you also had the ability to buy proper and, more importantly, not an extremely finite amount of MP restoring items. So that was a little rough, but I really enjoyed this game. All the characters are great. I don't think that there is really like a genuinely bad member of the party in terms of their writing. I think all the characters in our party are rock solid. It's the most rock solid I've seen from an Atlas game like this in a long time. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I will defend any member of C's, anyone for Persona 4 or 5, but like Teddy and Morgana are kind of rough. But I didn't really think anyone was bad. Luis was great, but I never really clicked with MC's morale. The first MC clicked way more. That is fair, and everyone's gonna definitely have their opinion. You 100% agree. Really should have been an option to buy it back. Yeah, like that. Again, buying Magna Restoring items. It's like it's such. Ugh. It was rough. It made getting through dungeons in one day an absolute pain. I actually did like, one of the things I did like about the dungeons, just because it was just interesting. So the first two dungeons definitely did function pretty similar to like previous like Persona dungeons, where it's like, you know, you're going through like a series of dungeon crawling and fighting multiple enemies and mini bosses, and like you could theoretically get through it in one day. But this game really discouraged that indirectly. I did like that at a certain point the game decided to kind of change the formula of the dungeon, where it's like with Luis's ship, it's like, yeah, there's a little bit of dungeon crawling, but for the most part it's mini bosses, and there aren't nearly as many enemies for you to fight. It is just about dungeon crawling and mini bosses. It's just about you demonstrating your skill. And then of course, you know, just kind of focusing on getting through the opera house, and you know, focusing on mostly stealth, and well, using the very limited access that we had to the king's magic, which, you know, using subjective. And it wasn't really until we got to the very penultimate dungeon in the form of the castle where it really kind of returned to that formula. So I'm glad they made an effort to change the formula with the dungeons. Overflow, Harmony, Area Radiance, really nice stuff. What else? I love the music. Joseph Tweedale absolutely killed us, Louise. Who did Neurus? Oh, I see. Oh, I must have missed it. Yep, I totally admit it. So I will say one thing is that and they kind of showed it in the cast here. There was that whole group of people, like the kind of the different rulers of the different smaller nations. How do I put this? I did not care for those characters, mainly because the smaller leaders of the nations, like, they had all these meetings, and like, don't get me wrong, like Forden, like, he had his impact, and Rella obviously had her impact, but like the rest of them did nothing the entire game except delegating, like 100% delegating, which I wouldn't mind if they didn't all have like such unique and interesting designs. I mean, like, there's one guy just like cloaked in armor, and I thought like, oh, there's definitely going to be some opportunity where we're going to have to fight this guy, and he's going to be this really brutal boss that's going to hit like an absolute truck. Never fought him. I don't think we ever even directly talked with him. There was like the engineer who had like a crazy design in their head, and even like a weird look on their, like, in their eye. Just delegate it. There's nothing more annoying than like incredibly well designed delegators. Like, they look interesting and you think they're gonna do something, and then they never do anything. I guess I give my individual thoughts on the party members. So I like Gallica. I love the fact that she wasn't annoying, because like, they could have easily made her an incredibly annoying fairy, especially with her being so petite, but it never really came up. She never really did anything to get on my nerves. Like, she was just genuinely helpful. Also, she is objectively the reason why we had such amazing music in this game, because in universe, all the music came from her magic. So it's like, you can't really say that she didn't contribute to anything, because she absolutely did. Like, her existence was the reason that we had music in the first place. Stroll was definitely a big departure away from what we see in a lot of Persona games, where it's like the first male character that we get in a party is usually like a heavy physical hitter that doesn't have a whole lot of intelligence is like usually the kind of the dumb comic relief one. But no, not only was Stroll not that, but Stroll legitimately had great ideas that for the most part worked. If it wasn't for Luis's 6D plans, like 6D chess plans, all of Stroll's plans would have worked. And like to great and surprising effect for a lot of people. So I'm very happy that Stroll kind of really deviated from that. Hulkenberg, she's hilarious. But like, I love that she also takes her job very, very seriously. Atlas and Sega, thank you so much. Let's see, is there anything post-credit before I continue on? Oh, that's the Seeker. The Great
Dear
Seeker,
guest,
GriffinOni!
a world I shall never know. In your eyes,
I forgot.
I know our journey was ultimately a fiction. However, I hope your memories of this fantastical adventure burn as bright in your reality. I hope the promise of our world echoes in you.
Echoes in me. Doesn't echo in the right people, unfortunately.
With all my heart, I hope that fantasy gives you strength.
Part of Stroll I disliked was how Smile always slouches in it. It feels so out of place for his character. That didn't really bother. I didn't really pay any mind to that. That never really bothered me. I absolutely know what you're talking about, and I can definitely see how that would bother people, but nah, that didn't never really bother me. To each their own. Hello, random countryman. Is that Luis's Skyrunner?
Look at that. The rubble's just bait for tourists now.
I never expected a view like this.
Let's see it all. Let's see the world.
Yeah.
A new journey now beckons. In days of eld, the people prospered and perished in turn. Struck by their ways, I wrote a book of my dearest ideas. A tale of fantasy. In my vision, they placed their trust, and so the kingdom breathed new life.
The strength to believe in the unknown. That can change everything. Without a
God,
doubt,
whoever did the
you will
sound design of
face
this
all
cutscene,
sorts of
like, that must have been
trials
hard. There's a lot of layers to it.
But carry onward with all your heart. Onward, fearless, into a world unknown.
Fantasy lives on! Okay. Next! Coronation of the King. Trophy earned. Brought about true peace. Only 43% of people actually did this. By saying clear data, certain things can transfer over as is to a new game. You can transfer currently owned items with some exceptions. Money, royal virtues, skin, enemies, memorandum, archetype statuses, and total playtime. He has such refined speech and makes an effort to maintain dignity, but he never does it in the animation. Again, I do see your point. But I don't see it as much of a problem. All right. Okay. Well, I mean, that takes care of that. Now, we're not quite done because I do want... Okay, first of all, 92 hours. Jesus. Spent 92 hours on that game. Okay, so before we end the stream, I actually do want to do one other thing. I just need to... What's this? Thank you. I am going to pull up a window here on my end. Okay. area. Okay. All right, let me do one quick thing here. There we go. Okay. Transform. It's great. Okay. So, yeah, I wish there weren't so many ads. But since we have a second, let's take a second to rank the characters on a little tier list. And let's see what I think of it, what y'all think of it at the end. So, where to start? Okay, so first of all, this is one of the delegators from the meetings that we talked about. F tier, again, okay design, didn't do anything but delegate, barely even a character, so I don't think it really counts. No one even remembers this guy. Same for him. These two members of the delegation I actually am going to put in a D tier. They suffer the exact same problems, but again, they're well designed. So I'm going to give them enough credit to put them in D tier, but I'm not going to put them any higher because, again, they didn't do anything. They just spent the whole game delegating here. Let's see. I'm gonna knock a couple out of the way just to be absolutely certain we're on the same page here. Luis is S tier. Can't help but think of the hip hop using this. Oh, how hop using the same animation. I can't help but think it looks like Ryuji's, which feels even more out of place. I don't know, like. Because, like, Stroll kind of, like, leaned over to the side a bit. I never really... Because, like, Ryuji was, like, properly, like, hunched over. Like, to the point where even there was, like, a spine on his, like, thing to emphasize that. Again, I do see your point, Ryan. I'm just not... I took no issue with it. Perhaps I was just too engrossed in everything. So Luis is S tier. Obvious reasons. S tier villain. It should also go without saying that Nuris is S tier and Nuris is above Luis because, again, Nuris is my favorite character in the game. Not to say Luis does not deserve his place in S tier, but you're never in a million years going to convince me that Nuris is not the best character in the game. He's my absolute favorite character. I don't even remember this guy's name. I'll put him in C, but like low C, because he did help. He did give us the assignment to save the prince, but aside from that, not really much to say. And I'll put you higher than him. Okay, I wish I remember names. I'm so bad at names. I'm so bad when it comes to names. Again, I'm not saying these two characters are not important. They do have their relative impact on the story, but aside from giving us the assignment and exposition, respectively, they didn't contribute much. So I don't think it's really fair to put them higher than C. Forden, I'll put an A. Forden definitely did have a big impact on the story. Again, Luis really did kind of shut down any opportunity for Forden to have as much impact, but that is not to say that Forden did not have his fair share of an impact, because my God, Forden gave out a lot of assignments, and boy, did those assignments matter. And he really was an intimidating presence until Luis outplayed everyone. Basilio S. I love Basilio. He's great. It just, I think Basilio did kind of work a little better when he was with Del, which also Del is also S tier. Just the two of them as a duo, I think worked best. But it also, but I think that was kind of the point of Basilio's kind of confidant, is like, hey, I'm not part of the duo anymore. It's like I need to figure out my place in the world and kind of figure out what I'm going to do moving forward and what I'm going to do for the group moving forward. And I think that worked really well. I think all things together, it worked well. I can't remember his name. He's the squire. I'll put him in A tier. He was genuinely helpful. I did like him. I really thought he was gonna do more. I like, for a good while I was convinced that at a certain point, like when all was said and done, he was gonna come up and like just swipe something from either under our hands or Louisa's hands and take the power for himself. He was like trying to pave this way for himself to have power, but nope. He was just a good dude, and he was genuinely helpful and funny, so I liked him. Hated that MC has basically handed him the win, had absolutely no plan, and Luis had to bail us out. That is true. That is fair. But again, it doesn't really matter, because Luis outplayed everyone. Like he caught on to what we were doing. We legitimately tried to deceive him, and he outplayed us. I mean, I was legitimately floored. I was floored both times. Let's see here. Again, we're just kind of going here. Brigitte, I'm gonna go with B. I do like Brigitte, and I do like the financial benefits that we received from her, but it's just one of those things where even though I did enjoy Brigitte's confidant, she weirdly became less interesting over time. That doesn't say I didn't like her, but I think B is a fair enough position to put her in. Same with Yuffie's brother. Although I will put Yuffie's brother above Brigitte, because Yuffie's brother actually did have like some pretty good benefits, at least in terms of being able to change the weather. So if I didn't want any problems with me not being able to have extra press turns in dungeons, I could just make the problem go away. Yeah, she's A tier. I gotta think very carefully. I'll put Gallica in S tier. She stuck by her side the whole game, and the only legitimately frustrating part about Gallica was the fact that she was tied into the mage archetype, which it's so frustrating when the mage is such like the quintessential. It's such a quintessential archetype. And to have its progression locked behind story progression is really frustrating. Just from Forden isn't the real problem to, oh, we stand no chance without Louise. Especially when the insane amount of stuff the church was pulling. Oh, yeah, no, the church is... God, I mean, like once the carpet was pulled out, like everything went straight to the boiler room of hell for the church. I mean, it just collapsed. He's gonna be put in A tier. Alder's one of those characters that, like, the moment I met him, I knew what his fate was. I knew nothing ahead of time, but it's like I've played enough RPGs to know where he was going. This is one of those characters that is like, it's so hit or miss because it really depends on the relative amount of impact that the character had. So, like, in his case, I think he had enough to kind of give us the general basics of things. But I don't know. He never really truly felt like a mentor to me in a weird way. Which, you know, to each their own. I think, like, a really good example of this kind of character working is Vandam from Xenoblade 2. I think that particular kind of character, it nailed it. Because they did Vandam partway through the story instead of like right at the very beginning, and only for a specific segment, but you were given like just enough time with him to appreciate everything that he was, for him to legitimately become like this kind of mentor figure to Rex, and just I don't know, it worked. The pacing for Vandam worked, and I'm not saying the pacing for him was bad. I'm just saying I needed one more thing from him to be truly stellar. F tier. Like, was this even a character? Like, I barely. Again, I'm not saying he wasn't in the game because I know who this is, but he barely did anything. Yufa is S. I enjoyed Yufa. The pacing of her was a little weird toward the start, but she gradually grew on me. She's legitimately very helpful in fights. She's everything that I wanted Juna to be, just in terms of gameplay. All the different summonings and abilities, and of course all the different references to like straight up SMT demon summoning. Really nice touch. This is a great way to kind of include the demons in SMT without just, you know, having them be here. Heismei is also S. It was such a relief to see like an animal-like character, like an animal-like party member, being so well written, and you being able to take him like completely seriously. He was not here for comedy relief. Like, yes, he's adorable, he's marketable, but I never truly felt that he was here for comedy relief, and his story was just stellar. Mostly appeal to the idea, oh sure, status quo is objectively evil, but the real issue is anyone trying to change it the wrong way. Yeah, that's fair, and I think that's kind of the I think that's part of why like Luis is kind of tricky. Shaden is now following. I believe that is the kick notification. So thanks for following, Shaden. Much appreciated. It's a tricky subject, to be sure. King, I'm gonna put in B tier. Obviously his presence toward the start was really impactful with the King's magic, but I don't know, maybe it's just because they did such a good job of showing how broken he was by the end of the story. But you know, just seeing such a disheveled shell of a person, it's discouraging, and it's a shame to see him kind of fall from grace like he did. And it's tricky for that. Hulkenberg, also S tier. Her foodie moments are hilarious, and I love how passionate and dedicated she was toward the prince. And by extension, us by the end of things. Just she showed passionate. My only problem with her, and like it was like only an issue for a small bit of time, but it was weird that she had no actual ability to attack aside from like her normal weapon attack when she awakened to her archetype. Like her only abilities were to call enemies toward her, which is fine, but it's like it's weird that she didn't have any way to attack right at the start. Juna, I'll put A tier. Again, Juna, very well written character. I'll put her a few places higher. Juna, very well written character. But like I said, the royal the masked dancer archetype, even with the masks, it's like it was so hit or miss for me. I didn't have too many problems, but I just didn't like the fact that the masks were locked behind an accessory. Agree on the king. Rewarding the church with complete power made essentially the prince the right move. Yeah. This guy, I will put him at the top of D tier because I liked his design and I like what he did at first, but he's ultimately just a minion of Louise, and he didn't stick around long enough to be a problem. But you know, for the start of the game, an initial asshole is still somewhat worth remembering. I'll put him at C. I enjoyed fighting him, and his design was really great, and his drunken antics were funny. Maria, I will put an S as well. Child characters are always kind of tricky to do, and I think this is one of the few cases where I've seen the child character executed to this effective degree. I would say, like, Maria, it was a really good one, and the only other like child character I felt like that was really well handled is a Nanako. But I will say Maria does not hold a candle to Nanako. Like Maria's S tier for this game. If Nanako were in this game, there would be no competition. Nanako is top tier. Luis was quite literally the only faction pushing back. It only calls the king right for bowing to the church. Again, there's definitely like a fair argument to say that Luis is, like, in a way, a necessary evil. But again, I just enjoy the fact that, hey, he was presented as the bad guy, and he never really stopped being the bad guy. Even if it was ambiguous as to whether or not he was a bad guy. It's interesting to be sure. Was he really the bad guy? Was he just in the wrong for doing things the wrong way? It's hard to say. Now, what's interesting is that the Prince and the MC are considered separate characters here, which, again, I mean, you're here. You came here to watch the epilogue. You know that they are essentially the same person. So I will do this just to keep it relatively fair. Because of the mechanics at play, and because of how the Prince works, I will lock the Prince at the top of A tier and put our MC at S tier. I'm gonna say I'd say like right here, more or less. But obviously it's a tricky thing because as the Prince was as an individual with respect to the MC, he had no personality for the majority of the time. But we later found out why that was. Is because we were his personality. We were everything that he was. So, yeah, it's tricky to talk about that. But as the game functions, the Prince is technically A tier because of how he functions. But no, otherwise he was. If it were not for how it worked, it'd be hard to say because he's practically a cadaver the entire game. Now where to put the lady? I'll put her at the bottom of A. I think that's fair. This guy, I'll put him B. He was insufferable, but I loved his design. And again, a man that's passionate about beauty, I can respect it. Let's see. Now more, I think more I'm gonna put like right here, because like, again, if you know the story, you know that Mor and the King are one and the same, just like me and the Prince were. Fantasy Luigi. Yeah. But I just appreciated Mor. I enjoyed seeing him. I think he was a fantastic guide. It's interesting because, like, of course, the world of the book does essentially function the same way as the Velvet Room, but at the same time, not. I think what's nice about Mor is that he was not just like, oh, hey, I'm a Velvet Room tenant, doesn't know anything. It's like there's a very, very simple reason he doesn't know what's going on outside in the world, but he's not unfamiliar with human cultures. But he did serve as a really well-spoken guide and genuinely wanted to see us succeed until he didn't. He's absolutely evil, but that's literally the only possible method to fight against the church. Yeah. Let's see. This guy. So he was the Lay's attendant. I will put him. I think I'll put him at the bottom of B. He served as an okay antagonist, but obviously he was just a minion. He was relatively well written, and he had a decent amount of screen time until he was devoured by the child. But I mean, a well written minion is just that, a well written minion. Alonso S tier. Easily S tier. I will put Alonso like right here. I loved his whole deal. I loved the way he presented himself. I loved the fact that he stuck to his virtues the entire time. Never truly compromised except when it needed to happen. And yeah, I love Alonso. He's great. Absolutely phenomenal. It legitimately upset me when I thought he died. Even though I had my doubts about it, but the game did a good job convincing me that no, he's dead, and I was legitimately upset about it. And any game that makes me upset that a character dies means that they made a good character. I think that's a relatively fair thing to say. Barden, I'll put you kind of comfortably in the middle of A. Barden is definitely helpful. He gives one of the absolute best archetype trees in the game, to be sure. But Barden was just kind of a weird case. But don't get me wrong, I like Barden. Katharina, I'm going to put at the top of B. I like Katharina's design. I like Katharina's character. I like her story. I would have absolutely put her in A tier if she had been a more involved participant in what was going on. Because I really thought she was going to be a part of the party. And I know technically she can't appear in battle. But putting aside the fact that I was never fortunate enough to be able to... I know I was never fortunate enough to be able to actually see her help us in battle. But the fact that she was not in any way a party member, I wanted to see her travel with us. I was hoping that she was going to join us in some way, but that never happened. And again, I know why they did that. I'm sure it was a difficult decision. It's like we already have a UG. Not a UG. What's her race? Anyway, I knew that we were going to have a member of Katharina's race join, and they obviously had to decide between Del, Basilio, and Katharina, and I'm sure there was a difficult decision, but still, I wanted her to be a party member. 100% knew he'd fake his death in some way, but the lengths they went to made it even better, even though in the twist. Shelter formation was my saving grace in most fights. Yeah, I can see that. Where to put you? I'll put you kind of in the nope. I'll put you above the king only because you stuck around. You had enough impact for it to matter, but at the same time, it was always consistently funny to watch this guy squirm and fail, just as the story progressed. Because it's like he tried so hard. It just things never worked out for this guy. It's great. Stay with him. I'm gonna put him at the top of B. He's so funny. His incompetence was just so funny. And it's just the fact that everything just kept working out so poorly for him all throughout his character development. It's so funny. Also, I'm not sure which accessories you're talking about. I left most of my party on archetype rating for EXP boost. Well, there were certain accessories that they either increased stats. There were certain accessories that prevented all physical ailments from being applied. there was one particular accessory that allowed a character to act 2 times in a row, which, especially if you're able to exploit extra press turns, can be very helpful. So that's what I mean by certain accessories. Again, I definitely see why the Archetype Ring can be helpful, but there are accessories that I do feel are worth are legitimately worth using. This guy's a good design, but again, he's such a nothing character. I'm gonna put him here. Also, incidentally, doing the hardest dungeons in bad weather because Stormy Sea Ring, giving every physical attack so the auto crit and thus auto weakness. Okay, that's fair. That is fair. This particular character here, I'm so bad with names. I'm really sorry. I don't remember everyone's names. I'm gonna put her at the bottom of C. I legitimately like her design. I really do. But she was like, you fought her one time and then she basically did nothing for the rest of the game. Like, maybe I missed something, but it's just like such a good design, and then like she doesn't do anything for the rest of the game. So yeah. Rella, S tier. I'd say right up here. Not only is she like she was just legitimately well written, the twist with her was phenomenal. I was not expecting her of all people to be the one that was responsible for assassinating the prince. Like, obviously part of that it has to do with the fact that the game did such a good job of convincing you, thanks to the church, that Luis was the one responsible. And then you find out, nope, he had nothing to do with that. But I didn't expect it to be real. I 100% thought it was Forden. I did not expect it to be the healing lady. This guy, same problem. Then we have 2 more. We have Stroll and Zorba. Stroll, another S tier character. I'm gonna put just before Hulkenberg. Again, Stroll has his legitimately great moment. I think the greatest thing about Stroll is that he comes up with the most insane plans, but they actually work. That's the thing. Like, you can't call them stupid plans, because somehow, against all odds, they work. And that's what's great about it. That's what's great about it. And then there's Zorba. I will put you... yeah, I think right here, kind of where I'm not sure about putting him in S. He had a lot of impact toward the start of the game. Like, as far as if we're talking just like the initial, like, like first major dungeon of the game, this guy created so many problems, but then he just kind of phased out. But not really. It was all part of Luis's plan. Which, don't get me wrong, he was essential for that, and I'm not going to take that away from him. His transformation into a semi-human was also pretty intimidating. But I don't know. Definitely better than this other purple-haired character, which definitely created some confusion. So, yeah, there we go. There's my little tier list for you guys. But yeah, like I said, I loved playing this game, and it was a shame that I could not get to the epilogue in the previous stream, but it got so late, that stream. I had to stop playing. I was streaming for 8 hours at that point. I was so burned out. I just couldn't push myself past the end. But yeah, I think that is going to do it. Zorba's only chapter boss with massive impact. I love it. That's fair. It's definitely a fair assessment of Zorba. Again, great antagonist for that first chapter. I just wish he had been If he had just like a couple of more scenes of impact, I think I would have enjoyed him. None of the other dungeons had a Persona-esque villain. What do you think? I get what you mean. I think there's some argument to be made for Luis's dungeon, but I get what you mean by that. Yeah, Zorba definitely is the most over the top in terms of being that kind of Persona-esque style. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this particular live stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. Obviously, just a great. Just a great this is a great game. No other chapter boss on this list, just Zora. That's fair. That's a fair point. But yeah, that's gonna be it as far as Metaphor ReFantasio. I do not plan to do anything with the New Game Plus. I don't particularly want to do the super boss because that's just gonna take up so much time just to be able to attempt it. And I have a lot of other games that I want to play. So yeah. This weekend, more likely than not, on Sunday, because I actually have I have plans of a nondescript nature on Friday night that I'm going to partake of, and so we'll be doing another stream on Sunday. So this is going to be it for now, but that does not mean there will not be new content. A new episode of Mario and Luigi Brothership just dropped today. And there will be another new episode coming out on Friday. We're kind of in the second kind of section of the game. We just, I believe today we went into, which was it? It was the island with the big maze where you find Princess Peach. So definitely give that a watch. I work hard on that particular series, especially since I'm trying some new stuff with the volume. So give it a watch. Let me know what you think. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. And good night.